Good morning. Today we are going to begin a play from the book Vistas. The name of the play is On the Face of It. It is written by Susan Hill. Susan Hill is an English author of fiction and non-fiction works. Her novels include The Woman in Black, The Mist in the Mirror, and I'm the King of the Castle, for which she received the Somerset Maugham Award in the year 1971. The present play, On the Face of It, is a short play that mostly talks about conversation between an old man, Mr. Lamb, and a 14-year-old boy, Derry. It is largely concerned with the relationship between people and the things that divide them or bring them together. Derry has a burnt face, and Mr. Lamb has lost a leg, and so society treats them differently from other people. In response to this, Derry has learned to close himself off and avoid others. On the other hand, Mr. Lamb maintains an attitude of openness. Ultimately, Lamb's friendliness and non-judgmental acceptance wins Derry over, and the two find a strong connection. In Mr. Lamb's character, playwright Susan Hill presents a worldview that embraces openness, the dignity and value of all people, and the importance of connection and kindness between them. And though Lamb's story ends in tragedy, his positive effects on Derry are what linger beyond the play's final scene. The theme of the play is about people who suffer from disabilities. They must always look at the bright side of things and adapt reality of life bravely. At the same time, the actual pain or inconvenience caused by a physical impairment is often much less than the sense of alienation felt by the person. The disabled need our support and acceptance and not our sympathy. The present play is titled On the Face of It. It is used to mean that something seems to be good or bad, but that needs to be changed when you know more about it. Appearances are deceptive, and more often we go on dealing with impressions and prejudices about others without caring to know much about them. In the present play, people know about Mr. Lamb as a lonely, eccentric, lame old man, but in reality, he is a very kind and generous man who longs for company, and he loves his fellow human beings along with all the other creations of God. Similarly, Derek or Derry appears to be an ugly boy with a huge scar on his face, whom no one loves or likes or befriends. He is the object of others' hateful stares and ridicules. He is often neglected. Even his mother does not dare to kiss him on the cheek with the scar. Yet this boy, who is suffering from an acute inferiority complex, has a tender and sensitive heart. He wants to love and be loved. Fortunately, he meets Mr. Lamb, who transforms him and has his healing touch. Moving ahead with the justification of the title. According to the Oxford Dictionary, on the face of it is an informal expression used to say that something seems to be good, but this opinion may need to be changed when you know more about it. The definition of the expression should leave us in no doubt about the appropriateness of the title. An individual may be quite different from others and may be quite different from what we think of him or what he or she may apparently appear to be at the first glance. There is the imperative need for us to view others by removing our glasses of prejudice, hatred, or dislike. The first scene is located in Mr. Lamb's garden. There is an occasional sound of bird song and of tree leaves rustling. Derry's footsteps are heard as he walks slowly and hesitantly through the long grass. He comes round a screen of bushes. When Mr. Lamb speaks to Derry, he is close at hand. Naturally, Derry is startled. Mr. Lamb tells Derry to mind the apples. Derry inquires about the person. Mr. Lamb gives him his name and then tells him once again to mind the apples. He adds that those are crab apples. They have been blown down from the tree by the wind and are lying in the long grass. The boy could step on one of them and fall. Derry tries to explain. He says that he thought that it was an empty place. He did not know there was anybody there. Mr. Lamb tells him not to be afraid. He explains that the house is empty since he is out in the garden. He observes that such a beautiful day is not worth spending indoors. Derry panics and says that he has got to go. Mr. Lamb assures him that he should not feel disturbed on his account. He doesn't mind who comes into the garden. The gate is always open. It was only the boy who climbed the garden wall. Derry is angry that the old man had been watching him. Mr. Lamb welcomes Derry. Derry further explains that he had not come to steal anything, and Mr. Lamb assures him that he hadn't. He further adds that only the young lads steal. They steal apples from the garden. He is not that young. Derry explains that he just wanted to come into the garden. He wants to go and says goodbye. Mr. Lamb tells him that there is nothing to be afraid of. It is just a garden and only one person, that is he himself, is there. Derry once again says that people are afraid of him. He has a very negative approach towards life. He tells Mr. Lamb to look at him, and after seeing his face, he might think that he is the most frightful and ugliest thing ever. Derry also says that when he looks in the mirror and sees his own face, he is afraid of it. Mr. Lamb says that the whole of his face is not frightening. We can see here that Mr. Lamb is very positive, whereas Derry is very negative about his life and also about his face. There is pause, and Mr. Lamb now changes the topic. He says it is a bit cooler. He'll get the ladder and a stick and pull down those crab apples. They are ripe for making a jelly. September is the right time of the year for it. The apples look orange and golden. He tells Derry that he could help him. Derry tells him that he has changed the subject for. Why did he do it? He says that the old man does not ask him because he is afraid to do so. Derry also says that he doesn't like being with people. Mr. Lamb makes a guess. Perhaps the boy got burnt in a fire. Derry says that he had got acid all over down on his face on one side, and it burnt it all the way. Derry tells Mr. Lamb if he is not interested. The old man says he is interested in anybody and anything made by God, even grass, rubbish, weeds, flowers and fruit. He observes that it is all life developing just as they are. When Derry says that they are not the same, Mr. Lamb says that there is no difference. He is old, Derry is young and has got a burnt face. The old man has got a tin leg. His real one got blown off years back in the war. Some kids call him Lamey Lamb, but it doesn't disturb him. There are plenty of things other than his leg to stare at. He refers to Beauty and the Beast. Derry says that no one will kiss him. He won't change. Throughout the entire story or throughout the play, we can see that again and again Mr. Lamb tries to change Derry's perspective towards life. Derry is a pessimist, but Mr. Lamb tries to change his approach and his outlook towards life, and he tries his level best. Further in the story, Derry says that people talk about persons who are in pain and brave and never cry or complain and don't feel sorry for themselves. People try to console people suffering from physical impairment by asking them to think of all those worse than them. They might have been blinded or born deaf, or to have to live in a wheelchair, or be insane and dribble. But all this will not change his face. Even totally strange persons call him terrible. Derry repeats that he doesn't like being near people. He likes to stay away from them, especially when they stare at him and when he sees them being afraid of him. Mr. Lamb then tells him the story of a man who was afraid of being in the world. He was afraid of everything that was in the world. So, once he locked himself in his room and stayed in his bed. Finally, a picture fell off the wall onto his head and killed him. Derry says the old man said peculiar things. Then he tells him what he does all day. Mr. Lamb replies that he sits in the sun. He reads books. His house is full of books. His house has no curtains and he does not like shutting things out. He likes the light and the darkness. He hears the wind from the open window. Derry likes hearing the sound of the rain on the roof when it is raining. Mr. Lamb observes that if he hears things, he is not lost. Derry says that people talk about him downstairs when he is not there. They seem to be worried about him and his future. Mr. Lamb gives him an inspiring advice. He will get on the way he wants like all the rest, and he has all the God-given organs. He could even get on better than all the rest if he determines to do so. Mr. Lamb tells Derry that he has hundreds of friends. The gate is always open. People come in, kids come for the apple, pears, and for toffee. He makes toffee with honey. Sometimes his friends may be one-sided. Mr. Lamb tells Derry that hating others is bad. It harms more than any bottle of acid. Everything is the same, but everything is different. Derry's attitude shows a gradual change. He wants to come there again. He thinks that the other friends of Mr. Lamb might go away if he came. Mr. Lamb assures him that people are not afraid of him because he is not afraid of them. Derry wants to stay there, but he has to inform his mother where he is. His house is around 3 miles away. Mr. Lamb tells him to run there and inform his mother. Derry goes on asking the old man about the persons who come there. He thinks that nobody ever comes there. The old man is there all by himself and miserable. No one would know if he were alive or dead, and no one cared about him. Derry further says that he'll come back. Then Derry runs off. In the second scene, we see Derry and his mother. He informs his mother about the lame old man. She tells him not to go there. Derry says that he wants to go there, sit and listen to things and look at things. Nobody else has ever said the things the old man has said. When his mother says that he is best off there, Derry says he hates to be at home. He no longer cares about his face. It is not important. It is what he thinks, feels, sees and hears that is important. He is going there to help the old man with crab apples and to look at things and listen. If he doesn't go back there, he'll never go anywhere in the world again. We can see that Derry has changed. He has become an optimistic person. The last or the final scene is again located in Mr. Lamb's garden. Derry reaches Mr. Lamb's garden panting. He finds Mr. Lamb lying on the grass with the ladder. Derry tells him that he has come back. Since Mr. Lamb fails to respond, Derry kneels by him and begins to weep, and the curtain falls. The play has a very pathetic ending, but it is very positive also. Derry's brief association with Mr. Lamb changed him from a bitter, pessimistic and complex-ridden boy to a mature and confident person. His attitude towards life underwent a transformation. He got encouraged by Mr. Lamb's unending enthusiasm and unceasing zeal to live. Thus, Mr. Lamb's unfailing optimism helped transform Derek completely. Mr. Lamb's conversation with him about everything being essentially the same, his notion of beauty being relative, His talk about pretty girls and love, his concept of the world and friendship, and the incident of the timid man all fascinated and inspired Derek. Gradually, Derek was able to shed off his old self and rediscover life. He was able to experience the joy of little things of life, like raindrops falling pitter patter on the roof. He even told his mother that we should never believe on all that we hear. And finally, we come to know that his meeting with Mr. Lamb was a turning point in his life, and hence he changed finally into a positive, optimistic person who is very confident about himself. That's the end of the play. I hope that you have understood it. Please go through the PPT for further understanding. Thank you.